The distress beacon pulsed through the void like a heartbeat, desperate and erratic. Captain Elias Voss stared at the scrambled transmission on the screen of the Valkyrie, his team's dropship, as the AI worked to reconstruct the message. Xiphos, 7 unknown threat, request IM. The transmission fragmented into static before reforming. Survivors, impossible to escape, need assistance. Voss exhaled slowly. He had been on 100 hellish missions, but the name Xiphos 7 sent a chill through him. Officially, it was marked as Category Omega, no return. No one who had landed there had ever come back. The system's star chart labeled it with the simplest, most damning description: Apex Predator present. Someone tell me why we're even considering this, Sergeant Kara Jex muttered, adjusting the holster of her sidearm. She leaned against the bulkhead, her posture deceptively relaxed. Jex was a fighter, the kind who didn't flinch in the face of carnage. If she had doubts, that meant the mission was a special kind of suicidal. Dr. Leon Barrett, the team's xenobiologist, tapped a finger against his chin. Because we're human. His tone carried a note of grim amusement. And apparently, we don't comprehend the phrase, do not enter. Lieutenant Miko Tanaka, their pilot, grinned as she flicked through the mission briefing. The Ixians are practically begging for help, and their kind never begs. If they're this desperate, whatever's hunting them must be bad. Real bad. Voss shifted his gaze to the display. A red-hued world loomed, shrouded in thick storm clouds that churned as if the planet itself were alive. The satellite imagery was distorted, interference rampant, but one thing was clear. There was something down there that didn't want visitors. Corporal Red Vasquez cracked his knuckles. So we're really doing this? Diving into a graveyard to save a bunch of aliens who'd never return the favor? Voss turned to his team. Ixians might not care about us, but that doesn't mean we leave them to die. That's not who we are. He let the words settle. Get prepped. We drop in 15. The Valkyrie's engines burned hot as they entered the exosphere. Turbulence battered the ship like a war drum. Outside, the world of Xiphos 7 spread out beneath them. A land of jagged, obsidian-like mountains, thick acidic fog, and bioluminescent patches of dense jungle. Visibility was near zero. Tanaka cursed under her breath, gripping the controls. This atmosphere is hell. It's like something's actively fighting us. Voss didn't like that phrasing. He checked his display. No sign of the Ixian distress beacon? Barrett's fingers danced across his console. It's still transmitting, but weak. Location locked. 8 clicks northeast. The ship descended, landing with a violent jolt in a clearing surrounded by twisted, spindly trees. The ground beneath them was wrong. It gave slightly, almost like flesh. Gear up, Voss ordered. We go in silent. The team deployed, weapons at the ready. The air was thick, humid, carrying an underlying scent that was unsettlingly organic. Jex crouched beside a strange patch of ground, brushing away some of the mist. Cap? This isn't dirt. The surface beneath was bone, not scattered remains. An entire layer of fused skeletal structures, stretching in all directions. That's a mass grave, Barrett murmured. And it's old. Whatever did this has been here for a long time. They moved cautiously, following the signal deeper into the jungle. The silence was unnatural. No insect hum, no distant cries of wildlife. Felt like the world was holding its breath. Tanaka turned, frowning. You guys feel like we're being watched? She wasn't wrong. Shadows shifted in the mist, but no movement registered on their scanners. The Ixian crash site loomed ahead, the wreckage of their ship half buried in blackened earth. Voss signaled for Jex and Vasquez to flank left, while he and Barrett approached the entrance. The metal was gouged with deep claw marks, each slash precise and deliberate. Barrett examined the markings, his face pale. This isn't random. What do you mean? Voss asked. This was done to instill fear. Inside the wreck, they found the survivors. 5 Ixians, their usually sleek, reptilian bodies shuddering in terror. Their leader, identified by the ceremonial bands on his arms, staggered forward. You came. His voice was strained. Voss nodded. We're here to get you out. One of the other Ixians grabbed his arm. No. You don't understand. His eyes, wide and haunted, locked onto Voss with something beyond fear. Voss felt a prickle along his spine. Understand what? The Ixian barely managed to whisper. It's still here. Then the world went dark. The ship's emergency lights flickered. Outside, the mist churned, moving against the wind. Then came the sound. A low, guttural clicking. Rhythmic. Intelligent. It was close. The clicking reverberated through the ship's wreckage, a slow, deliberate sound that sent a cold shiver down every spine. It wasn't the noise itself that unnerved Voss. It was the intelligence behind it. The cadence shifted, almost like a form of speech, as if the thing in the dark was communicating. The Ixians huddled together, their normally rigid posture reduced to trembling forms. Their leader, still gripping Voss's arm with clawed fingers, whispered, "It learns." Jex and Vasquez had their weapons trained on the shadows outside, eyes scanning the swirling mist. Barrett stood near the bulkhead, analyzing the air with his wrist scanner. I'm detecting electromagnetic fluctuations. That thing is interfering with our gear. Tanaka's voice crackled through the comms. We've got movement circling us. Fast. Faster than anything I've ever seen. Voss adjusted his grip on his rifle, every instinct in him screaming to move. But move where? The jungle outside was an unknown death trap, but staying inside this broken husk was a coffin waiting to be sealed. A sound, sharp and sudden, like claws raking against metal, tore through the silence. Jex didn't wait for orders. She swung her rifle toward the opening and fired a short burst. The muzzle flash lit up the wreckage for a split second, revealing something just beyond the threshold. A shape, tall and hunched, skin shifting in color like a chameleon. Its elongated head featureless save for deep-set, unblinking eyes. The bullets hit, but the thing moved with impossible speed, twisting out of the way before vanishing back into the mist. Negative contact, Jex snarled. That thing's playing with us. Barrett exhaled through his teeth. No, it's testing us. The Ixian leader's grip tightened. You must leave. Now. Voss weighed their options. Extraction isn't for another hour. We bunker down, keep our defenses tight. One of the younger Ixians hissed, his voice breaking. Fool. Time is not your ally. Every moment you stay, it adapts. Vasquez cursed under his breath. Yeah, well, it'll have to adapt to high explosives. 'Cause I'm not dying here. The jungle answered with a low, guttural growl. This time, it wasn't a single sound. It was echoed by something else in the distance. Barrett went pale. Oh hell, we assumed there was one. He turned to Voss, voice grim. What if there's more? The walls of the wreckage trembled as something heavy landed on the hull. Metal groaned, denting inward from the weight. Another sharp scrape. Then another. Jex was already moving. We're getting out of here. Now. Voss made the call. Tanaka, we need immediate evac. The ship is compromised. Silence. The comms were down. Tanaka's voice finally broke through, distorted. Static, signal jammed, moving to pick up point. That was all they needed. Voss turned to the Ixians. Can you run? The leader nodded. We have no choice. The team moved fast, exiting through the opposite side of the wreckage. Outside, the mist had thickened, curling unnaturally between trees, hiding things that should not be hidden. The jungle felt like a living entity, shifting with unseen movements. Jex and Vasquez took point, their rifles sweeping the area. Voss motioned for the Ixians to stay close as they moved. The path ahead was uneven, covered in thick, fleshy vines that pulsed underfoot like veins. Every step was treacherous. Barrett whispered as they ran. This ecosystem isn't natural. It's designed to trap prey. Not helping, Vasquez muttered. Then the world exploded. From the trees, something lunged. Not from above, not from the sides, but from the ground itself. A blur of shifting colors, talons stretched wide, maw lined with interlocking teeth. Jex fired first, Vasquez and Jex covered the rear. The creatures hesitated just outside the fire, their bodies flickering, as if unstable. Then, as suddenly as they had attacked, they stopped. The leader stepped forward. It looked at Voss, not with hunger, with understanding. Then it melted into the mist, disappearing with the others. Voss didn't stop to question it. He slammed his fist on the hatch controls, sealing the ship. Go, go, go! Tanaka gunned the engines, and the Valkyrie shot into the sky, leaving the nightmare behind. In the silence of the cabin, Voss turned to the Ixians. Now, tell me what the hell those things are. The Valkyrie tore through Xiphos 7's atmosphere, engines roaring as Tanaka pushed the ship to its limits. Inside the cabin, the silence was thick, every breath filled with lingering adrenaline. The Ixians sat huddled together, their usual stoic expressions replaced with something rarely seen on their kind, fear. Voss pulled off his helmet, his jaw clenched. He turned to the Ixian leader, his voice cold but controlled. Talk, now. The Ixian's slitted eyes met his, hesitation flickering across his features. You should not have come. Vasquez scoffed, still reloading his shotgun. Yeah, we got that part. Barrett wiped a streak of black ichor from his armor. What the hell are those things? And don't give me the usual forbidden knowledge speech. The Ixian exhaled, his scaled fingers tightening. They are what remains when evolution has no boundaries. They are the apex. Jex frowned. Apex? That's what your distress signal called them. But that word isn't a name. It's a classification. The Ixian nodded. Because there is no name for what they are. No species, no history. They do not hunt for survival. They do not kill for territory. They do not need. His voice turned hollow. They only exist to be better. Voss's stomach tightened. He had seen predatory species before, creatures that hunted with precision, efficiency. But what he had witnessed planetside was different. Those things hadn't just adapted. They had learned in real time. Barrett spoke carefully. You said they learn. How? The Ixian hesitated before finally answering. They consume, not for sustenance but for knowledge. Every organism they kill, every species they touch, they inherit. Strength, reflexes, regeneration, intelligence. It becomes theirs. Vasquez swore under his breath. So what? They're a walking evolutionary cheat code? The Ixian's throat pulsed, a nervous tick. They do not breed. They do not spread like a virus. There is only one apex at a time. It hunts until there is nothing left to learn from a world. And then, his eyes darkened. It creates a successor, one stronger than itself. And the cycle begins again. Jex muttered. You mean that thing we fought wasn't even the worst version of itself? The Ixian silence was answer enough. Voss felt the weight of realization settle in his chest. How long have these things existed? The Ixian's gaze became distant. Longer than memory. My kind has encountered them only once before. In a war so ancient we only speak of it in whispers. Our ancestors purged entire systems to erase them. We thought it was over. His jaw tightened. We were wrong. Tanaka's voice cut through the comms. We've cleared orbit, but we've got a problem. Voss turned toward the cockpit. Define problem. Her fingers flew over the controls. We're being followed. The blood drained from his face. What? Barrett's scanner beeped, and his expression darkened. I'm picking up gravitational anomalies behind us. Something is moving through space without propulsion. Jex's grip on her rifle tightened. No, that's not possible. The Ixian leader exhaled sharply. You do not understand. The apex does not need ships. It does not need air, or warmth, or pressure. It has consumed creatures that live in the void. The realization hit Voss like a sledgehammer. It's following us. Outside the damn ship. Tanaka cursed. If it boards, we're dead. I don't care how fast it learns. It won't survive a jump to FTL. Voss made a decision. Then we stall it. He turned to Vasquez. You still have explosives? The corporal smirked. Always. Voss grabbed his helmet. We suit up, we go out there, and we blast this thing off our tail. Jex grinned despite the tension. Now we're talking. Minutes later, the airlock cycled open. The black void of space stretched before them, stars cold and distant. Voss and Jex stepped onto the ship's exterior, magnetic boots locking onto the hull. Vasquez stayed behind, setting charges along the ship's underbelly. Voss's HUD flickered. Barrett, talk to me. I can't get a visual. It's moving in blind spots, staying where our sensors are weakest. Jex scanned the darkness. It's learning. Again. Then something shifted. Not an attack, not a movement, but a presence. The void itself seemed to ripple, warping the starlight. Then, slowly, it unfolded. The apex clung to the hull like an obscene mockery of a spider, its limbs shifting their structure even as they watched. Its skin, once camouflaged, now gleamed like polished obsidian. It had changed again, adapted to the vacuum. It turned its head toward them, those unblinking, predatory eyes locking onto Voss. And then it smiled. Voss didn't hesitate. Fire! Jex's plasma rifle lit up the void, rounds slamming into the creature. It didn't dodge this time, took the shots and kept coming. Vasquez's voice rang in their comms. Charges set. You might want to move. Voss grabbed Jex's arm and launched them both backward just as the explosives detonated. The force rippled across the hull, dislodging the apex. It tumbled into space, wounded but still watching. Voss gritted his teeth. Tanaka, punch it. Now! The ship jumped. The last thing Voss saw before the stars blurred into streaks of light was the apex, still smiling. When the ship stabilized, the crew was silent. The Ixian leader finally spoke, voice hollow. You did not kill it. Voss removed his helmet, his expression unreadable. No, but we learned, too. Jex exhaled, shaking her head. That thing will come for us. Voss looked out the viewport, the endless void stretching before them. Then we'll be ready.